Okay, let me give you a candid tool review of this Mirka sanding system during a little bit of a snowstorm here in Canada. So I got this about a month ago, just over a month ago, and I've been using it for a while, and I wanted to really test it out before I gave my opinion about it. And I gotta say, it's really amazing. There's a number of key things that I want to point out to you. The first thing I'd say is that all three of these things, I just got these two in the mail today and put them through a bit of a test. All three of them are super lightweight, super ergonomic. Not that you would ever sand with one finger, but like, you can. I see guys do that with a Festool all the time, and it's really cool. You don't really sand like that because you want to put a little bit more downward pressure on it. But what it does show is that it's really well balanced. And what that means is that when you're sanding, one of the reasons that it causes so much fatigue is that if you're fighting the sander as it's traveling back and forth and up and down, and you're trying to push down at the same time to get some more sanding done, you're getting exhausted more often because you're burning more calories while you're fighting it in every direction. So a really well-balanced sander means all you're really doing is putting the downward pressure on it and allowing it to sand. So it's lightweight, it's ergonomic. Of all the sanders that I've ever used, this one causes the least amount of fatigue. And I don't want to sound like a baby or anything, but when you're sanding for a long time, that does make a difference. Second, it has a speed control. So you have 7 settings of speeds, but not only do you have 7 settings of speeds, you can also control the speed a little bit with the paddle. Now the vacuum's going to turn on and I won't be able to talk, but listen, that's all the way on full, but I can also just have the paddle on a tiny bit to do a little bit of sanding. And that really comes in handy. Another thing that I really like is how well the vacuum cord hooks up to the sander. With some of the sanders I've used, they do plug in, but after a while they kind of wobble and come loose. I've never had this one come off at all. I do like that the cord and the hose are hooked into one deal, so you don't have 2 separate ones going in different directions. The only thing that initially was sort of like a con was when I went to put the sandpaper on, I would hit the paddle. So you have to remember to turn it off before you flip it over and put your sandpaper on, or when you start doing it, it comes on. The Abranet sandpaper is the best sandpaper I've ever used for a number of reasons. One, it gives a nicer finish. Like the grits, I don't know how to explain it, but the grits are kind of like woven into the net. And so you don't end up with as many little tiny circular marks. Second, instead of having, and these guys make a great sandpaper as well, but I like the Abranet sandpaper way more. So dust extraction comes down to 2 things. Your sander's capacity to make dust, and in many cases, most sanders make a lot of dust, that's fine, but the vacuum isn't able to suck it away fast enough. So if you're making 100 units of dust, you have to be able to suck away 100 units of dust, and the ability to move the dust away is how well your vacuum sucks. And in this case, the Mirka vacuum is great, but other vacuums are great as well. But it also depends on how much dust can travel through the sandpaper. And you can put more and more and more holes in your sandpaper, but at some point you start to weaken your sandpaper where it tears a whole bunch. So in this case, it's basically a net where it's kind of transparent and the whole thing is sucking. Not only that, if you set the sander down adjacent to or on like a pile of sawdust or sawdust on your board, it's sucking sawdust in from around the edge of the sandpaper. So the dust removal is incredible. Like when they say dustless sanding, it's dustless sanding. You know, I do a lot of the work where I put that black filler on top of the doors and the tables and stuff, and I sand that off. So that's really fine, like almost automotive type dust. And this stuff does an amazing job. These guys started in 1940 in Finland, and they were mostly into the automotive industry. So they were dealing with like a lot of that really fine dust. Even finer than what we're doing with woodwork. And 20 years ago is when they invented the Abranet sandpaper. So that's really incredible. Let me talk about the vacuum for a second. It does have, as you've heard already, a tool sensing unit, so you can turn it on. You can adjust the vacuum, how much it sucks, like depending on what you're doing. So really high amount of volume for sucking or a low amount. It comes on when you hit the paddle, but one nice thing is that it stays on a little longer afterwards. Some of the vacuums that I've had, as soon as you turn your tool off, it also comes off, which doesn't necessarily clear the line. So if I turn the vacuum on, and then when I stop using it, you can hear the vacuum still runs for a little bit, and that clears the whole line out. Another nice thing about the vacuum is that it's got a cleaning function. So if you put your hand over the vacuum, and then turn the vacuum on, and you push this button 3 times, and it blows the air backwards and cleans the filter out. So if you notice you're starting to lose a little bit of suction, one of the reasons might be because your filter is a little bit plugged. So this allows you to clear the filter without actually having to open up your vacuum and clear everything out. So I got this 6-inch random Orbital sander first, loved it so much that I ended up getting the 3x5 rectangular one and the Delta, Deos they call it. So I can get into more of the corners and things like that on some of the weird angles and everything. I'm honestly super impressed with this whole setup. All combined, like the sandpaper, the vacuum, the sanders. It's not the cheapest setup out there, but this is one of the times where it's really worth spending the extra money to buy really high quality stuff. I mean, these guys are in the sanding game, the dust collection game. That's all that they do, and they're really good at it. I've had quite a few people now saw that I had it, and they came by the shop and they were trying it out and giving it a test run. Really, really impressive. Sanding is one of those tasks that really it sucks, it's exhausting, it's really not that fun. And I'm not saying that it's now fun, but it certainly sucks less, right? It certainly, you know what, I'd almost even say that it's fun, almost because it feels like you're cheating a little bit. Like, it sands so well and does such a nice job that you sort of feel like you're cheating. It should be one of those tasks that really, really sucks, and you just gut your way through it, and it's way more pleasurable, and I guess in that has made it so sanding just, I actually like it now. It's pretty good. So I highly recommend Mirka. These guys have really got it figured out, an excellent dust collection system. Definitely gets 2 thumbs up for me.